They told me grief gets quieter. That time wears it down like river rock. But the day that dog showed up with my husband's war tag clenched in its jaws, charred, twisted, unmistakable, something louder than grief came clawing out of me because I buried James Tallfeather with that tag. I pressed it to his chest myself, right before they closed the casket. And now here it was, covered in dirt, still warm. Most people left Red Rock Hollow when the last well dried up and the cattle market collapsed. The smart ones, anyway. But I stayed, maybe out of stubbornness, maybe because no other place could stomach me, maybe because ghosts don't follow you. They wait where you left them. My name's Mary Tallfeather. I was born on the Apache side of the line before they paved the road and bulldozed half the sacred grounds into a gas station and a laundromat. My father ran horses till the government clipped his land rights. My mother died in childbirth with my little brother. After that, I didn't speak for 2 years. Not a word. They said I was cursed. Truth is, I just knew silence could hurt louder than any scream. I met James when I was 22. He was half Comanche, half trouble, all heart. A cowboy with a soldier's spine and the only man who ever made me laugh without asking for anything in return. He'd hum under his breath when he worked, songs his granddad taught him, sad songs full of dust and steel and honor. He never lied to me, never raised a hand. We didn't need many words, just firewood, coffee, and each other. We married under a blood moon, barefoot, with only the mountains to witness. He built us a cabin with pine logs and stubborn hands, said it'd last longer than we would. Then came the fire. It started on the North Ridge. Lightning, maybe sabotage. We never found out. All I know is James went out to help the Rangers cut a line and never came back. They found boots, a chain, a half-melted watch, no body, no final goodbye, just ashes, and the sound of my name echoing in empty rooms long after the wind stopped screaming. I stopped living, but didn't die, not fully. I stayed in the cabin, fed the dogs that wandered by, the broken ones, the lost ones. It felt right. I knew what it meant to be hungry, nameless, unwanted. Some nights I imagined James walking back in, younger, clean, holding wildflowers. Other nights I'd hear scratching at the door and wonder if it was something else. Something older than grief. Something watching me. People talked, said I was losing it. Maybe I was, but I knew things they didn't. I knew how to listen, to wind, to wolves, to ghosts. I didn't keep track of time. The seasons came and went like breath. All I had was a handful of photographs in the memory of hands that once held mine without trembling. That was the only truth I could still feel. Until the dog came. But that part comes later. What matters is this: I didn't stop believing in him. Not really. Not deep down. Even after I watched them lower that box into the ground. Even after I pressed my forehead to the dirt and begged the earth to take me too. Because something inside me always whispered, he's not gone. He's just not here. Not yet. It was early November when the cold came in sharp and sudden. The kind that splits wood and lips alike. I was chopping kindling behind the shed when I felt it. Stillness. Not quiet, not silence. Stillness. The kind that hums through your bones like a held breath. I turned, and there he was. The Dweek. Big, brindled coat, lean but not starving. One ear torn, the other twitching like it caught every sound in the canyon. He didn't bark, didn't whine, just stared. Long and heavy, like he knew me. Something about him, something in those eyes. He didn't move when I stepped closer. He didn't flinch when I reached out. But when my fingers got near his neck, he dropped something at my feet. A chain. At first I thought it was some old scrap from the junk pile. Then I saw the tag. Oval, charred, metal bent at the edge like it'd been through hell and dragged back. I dropped to my knees. There was a number on it, an ID code I knew like the lines on my hands. And on the back, his name, James Tallfeather. I'd buried that tag. I was the one who'd taken it off his neck in the hospital, just before they zipped the body bag. I remember holding it in my palm, hot from his skin, clinging to the last of his warmth like it was mine to keep. So how in God's name was it here? I couldn't breathe. I looked up, But the dog was already trotting off, casual, like this was just another delivery. I scrambled to my feet, followed him to the edge of the ridge, calling out, "Where did you get this?" He turned his head once, as if to say, "You already know," then disappeared into the scrub. I didn't sleep that night. I sat by the fire, holding the tag tight, turning it over and over. I checked every mark, every dent. I rubbed it with cloth, checked for signs of a replica, but I knew. Deep in my bones, I knew. This was the real one, which meant two things. Either someone dug up James's grave, or he'd never been in that box to begin with. Both possibilities scraped at the edge of madness. I wanted to scream. Instead, I made coffee, poured a second cup, left it on the table across from me like I used to, and I waited. By sunrise, the dog was back. No hesitation this time. Walked right up to the porch, sat like he belonged there. I didn't speak, just stared at him, waiting. He dropped something else. A bone. Fresh. Animal maybe. Maybe not. Attached to it, a scrap of military canvas. The kind James used to wear. That was the moment something inside me shifted. It wasn't grief anymore. It wasn't confusion. It was rage. Someone had lied to me about his death, about what happened that day in the fire, about the years I spent feeding ghosts while my husband's blood was still warm somewhere out there. I needed answers, and the only one who seemed to have them had 4 legs and a bullet scar. So I packed a bag, took the revolver from under the floorboard, grabbed a map, a compass, and what little strength I had left. When the dog turned and started walking north, I followed without a word. Because the second I saw that tag, I stopped being a widow. I became something else, something the world wasn't ready for. We headed north into the scrublands, where the map went pale and the sky turned mean. The dog didn't look back. He moved like he'd walked the route 100 times, weaving between boulders and dry creek beds, with a strange kind of urgency. I kept pace, boots crunching frostbitten grass, revolver strapped under my coat, heart beating a rhythm I hadn't heard in years. By nightfall, we reached an abandoned ranger station tucked between 2 jagged hills, roof half caved in. Windows gone, but there was a rusted stove inside, and I had firewood and matches. I didn't ask questions. I knew they wouldn't be answered. Instead, I lay my coat across the dog's back. He didn't flinch, didn't move, even when I pressed my hand to the scar on his neck. A fresh one. Stitch marks still tight. Someone had tended to him. Someone who cared. I fell asleep to the sound of wind slipping through splintered boards, dreaming of fire. Not the kind that kills, but the kind that reveals. The kind that burns through lies and leaves nothing but truth behind. We walked again at dawn. Higher ground now. The sky widened, thinned. The air hurt my lungs, but I didn't complain. Pain was just proof I was still in this, that something inside me hadn't gone all the way cold yet. On the 3rd day, we found tracks. Big ones, not boots, not hooves. Something military, ATV maybe. Fresh, days old, tops. I knelt beside them, brushed the soil with my fingers. Oil slick, synthetic rubber. Not rancher made, not hunters either. Government. That same bitter scent clung to the chain the dog brought me. Whatever I was walking into, it wasn't some wild goose chase. This wasn't some coyote dragging up memories for fun. There was purpose in every step, and I wasn't turning back. Later that night, I caught movement in the trees. Glint of metal. 2 figures, blurred and fast, moving across the ridge. I froze, reached for the revolver. The dog growled, low and long. Then, gunfire. 1 shot, sharp, deliberate. I dropped flat behind a log, heart hammering. My mind went white, then black. But no one came. After a minute, I crawled forward, peered through the brush. No bodies, no blood, just a message. Carved into the bark of a tree. Fresh. Turn back. I stood, legs shaking. Not from fear, something else. Recognition. That handwriting. That crude slanted style. James had written notes like that. On grocery lists, on the back of receipts. Sloppy, always rushed. I pulled the tag from my pocket and held it against the message. Same hand. He was alive. And he didn't want me here. But I'd already come too far. The next day, we reached the river crossing near Devil's Backbone. The water was high, too strong for an old woman and a half-wild dog. But the bus plunged in without a pause, paddling through the current like it meant nothing. I followed. The water nearly took me. I lost my footing halfway. My pack slipped. The current dragged me under. I tasted mud, panic, the sting of failure. Then teeth gripped my coat collar. The dog hauled me back, inch by inch, snarling against the pull of the river. When we hit the bank, I collapsed, coughing, soaked, shaking. He stood over me, chest heaving, tail still. I met his eyes. "You knew I'd follow," I whispered. He blinked once, turned, started walking again. I limped after him. By nightfall, we reached a ridge with a view so wide it swallowed the sky. In the valley below, lights, flickering, electrical, not ranch lights. No grid ran out this far. I pulled out the binoculars, focused, buildings, steel siding, barbed wire, and a flag, black with no emblem. My heart stuttered. No one was supposed to be out here. No thing was supposed to be built here. Except now I knew. They'd taken him, and they didn't bury him. They buried the truth. ChatGPT deny, the first bullet hit the dirt a foot from my boot. I didn't hear the shot, didn't see the muzzle flash. Just felt the crack of air and the sting of grit against my cheek as I dropped flat. The dog snarled and bolted sideways, circling fast through the brush. Second shot came quicker. Splintered bark. Missed me by inches. I rolled behind a rock outcrop, heart jackhammering, pulled the revolver from under my coat. My hands shook, not from fear, from fury. Someone had waited, followed, watched. "You think I'm scared of dying?" I yelled into the trees. "I already buried my life once." No answer. Just silence, that awful, electric kind. Then a voice, sharp, male, too calm. "You were warned, Mary. This isn't your road." My stomach dropped. He knew my name. I raised the revolver. "Show yourself." Nothing, then a rush, boots crunching, two figures moving fast from the left. I fired, once, twice. They scattered. One yelped, maybe hit, maybe not. The dog launched out of the undergrowth like a bullet himself, teeth bared. I heard a scream, a thud, the sound of flesh meeting the forest floor. Then silence again. I stayed low, crawled toward the clearing, found blood, thin trail leading northeast. They were pulling back, for now, but I knew what this meant. This wasn't a scare tactic. This was containment. They didn't want me gone. They wanted me erased. I waited until full dark before moving again. No fire, no talking, just the stars and that dog, limping now but still pushing forward like he had orders burned into his bones. 3 miles later, we reached a ridge with a line of dead trees, black trunks, bark blistered off. Lightning strike years ago, a scar across the land. I knew it well. We used to ride here, James and I. He said it looked like a battlefield the sky forgot. Now it was exactly that. Below, barely visible, I saw the compound again. Fence line humming faintly, a watchtower, guards with rifles. They paced like machines. Tight, predictable. This wasn't military. This was private, which meant worse. Government didn't care enough to shoot at widows. But corporations? They'd kill God if he threatened stock price. I needed proof, anything that showed James had been here. We waited till dawn, slept under the roots of a dead cedar. The dog trembled in his sleep, whimpering. I held him close, whispered songs my mother used to sing to wind away the night. Then just before sun broke, he stood up, suddenly alert. He took off, low and fast. I scrambled after him, through frost, through briar. We came to a gap in the fence, cut clean, not torn, deliberate. Inside was a storage shed. No lock, just a rusted latch and the sound of something ticking quietly inside. I pulled it open. What I saw turned my stomach sideways. Photos, dozens, hundreds of people, faces with tags, dates, coordinates, medical files, x-rays, brain scans, and in the center, his, James Tallfeather, alive, date stamped just 3 months ago. He looked older, hair shaved, eyes blank. But it was him. Scars on his hand from that bar fight in '89. The tattoo of a hawk on his shoulder, faded but there. On the back of the photo, in the same scratchy scrawl, "Don't trust the ones in uniform. They're not who they were." The dog barked once, sharp. I turned. Someone was running straight toward us. Not a guard. Someone in civvies. Blood on his shirt. Wide eyes. He stumbled into the shed, grabbed my coat. "They know you're here. You've got minutes, maybe less." "Who the hell are you?" I demanded. He shoved a flash drive into my palm. "Get this to the press. If you can't, burn it all." Gunshots. 3 quick bursts. The man jerked. Chest opened like wet paper. He fell. I ran. No plan, no direction, just legs pumping, heart tearing, the dog beside me growling like a storm. We didn't stop till night fell, didn't speak till the wind died. I stared at the flash drive for hours, turning it over in my hand. Whatever they were doing here, it wasn't legal. It wasn't human. And James had tried to stop it. They buried him in paperwork, buried him in experiments. But they couldn't bury the part of him that still wanted to find me. He left me a path, and I was almost at the end of it. ChatGPT deny. The dog stopped just before the cave mouth. It was hidden in the rocks, choked with brush, easy to miss unless something or someone on it was guiding you. I pushed through the thorns, heart lodged somewhere between hope and disbelief. Insfanem, say. It was cool, quiet. The kind of quiet that presses on your ears. My boots scraped stone, echoing like whispers. The dog went first, slow and steady. No hesitation. Then I saw it. A lantern, burning low. Someone had been here. Recently. I stepped forward, past the light, into a chamber carved out by time or hands. I couldn't tell which. And then I froze. He was there, back turned, hunched over something, shirt stained, hair grown out in patches. Gaunt. Still. I couldn't breathe. My throat caught. "James." He didn't move at first. Then, slowly, he straightened, turned. It was him. Older, thinner, scarred in ways no man should be, but him. The eyes were the same, that deep brown with flecks of gold when the light hit them right. My knees buckled. "James," I said again, like it might make him real. He stepped forward, one hand lifted, like he wasn't sure I was real either. Then he said my name. Mary. One word, and everything inside me collapsed. I reached out, touched his face. Rough, sunburnt, real. Not a dream, not a memory. We stood there like that, just breathing each other in until the dog nudged his way between us, tail thumping hard enough to echo off the cave walls. James knelt, touched the dog's head. "You made it," he whispered. "You sent him," I said. "Not a question. A fact." He nodded. "Only thing that's gotten past them in weeks." My mind was spinning. I stepped back, trying to piece it all together. "You died. They said you died. The fire." "They lied," he cut in. "There was no fire. Not the way they said. It was a sweep, a collection. Anyone off-grid, with survival skills, native background, military experience, they targeted us." "Who?" I asked, though I already knew. He looked at the ground. "Private contractors, government funding but no oversight, called it Project Ghostwind, said we were being reassigned, but we were test subjects." "For what?" "Cognitive resilience, neural endurance, psychological warfare." He laughed bitterly. "Fancy words for breaking people without leaving marks." I staggered back. My hand tightened around the flash drive. "They erased you," I said, "all of it. They built a grave around your name." James looked at me, pain etched deep in the lines of his face. I saw my own obituary. They gave me a choice: comply or disappear for good. "You didn't choose this." "No," he said, voice flat, "but I survived it." He gestured to the maps scattered around the cave. "I've been tracking their movements, their shipments, they're expanding. Montana, Idaho, parts of Arizona. People go missing, no questions asked." I handed him the drive. "Someone inside gave me this, died trying to get it out." James nodded, took it carefully. If this has what I think it does, it'll burn them down. Suddenly outside, movement, a branch cracked. We both turned. James grabbed a rifle from the rocks. We have to move. Now. We slipped through a back tunnel, one only James knew. Crawled through shale and into moonlight, hearts pounding. Below us, I saw the lights again, this time closer. Vehicles, flashlights, not search and rescue. Hunters. James turned to me. We can't outrun them, but we can expose them. He opened his pack, pulled out a small transmitter. Old Ranger signal, short range. If we boost it, we can send the file straight to the emergency net. They'll have to respond. I stared at him. They'll come for us. They already are. We climbed the ridge to an old comms tower, rusted, leaning, forgotten. James worked fast, hands shaking but precise. The dog stood watch, ears twitching. I loaded my revolver. How long? 60 seconds. Below, headlights moved. Too fast, too many. I grabbed his hand. If we don't make it, no, he said, we will. The tower hummed, lights blinked, signal locked. He hit send. Below, they opened fire. The tower exploded. We ran, smoke, dirt, fire in the air, the world spinning sideways. But the signal had gone. The truth was out. Even if we didn't survive the night, the lie wouldn't either. We didn't die. By some crooked miracle, or maybe fate having a moment of mercy, we made it out. The explosion knocked us flat, but not dead. The signal had gone out seconds before the blast, and James dragged me down the far side of the ridge while the tower burned like a second sun behind us. We moved through smoke and shadows, the dig limping ahead, bleeding from a nick to his side. James had a shrapnel cut across his shoulder. I could barely see through the soot and sweat, but we didn't stop. They chased us through the timberline. Flashlights sliced the dark like knives. Men shouted, boots stomped, but we moved like ghosts. Quiet, desperate, carved by survival. By dawn, we hit the river. Ice cold, churning fast. We crossed anyway. Couldn't risk the road. Couldn't risk slowing down. We lost the last of our gear in that current, except the revolver and the flash drive James had hidden under his vest. Somewhere on the other side, near a bluff that overlooked the canyon, we collapsed. Just laid there, side by side, shivering and sore and half delirious. The dog curled at our feet like a sentry and wouldn't sleep until we did. Hours passed, then a hum overhead, low, mechanical, not a chopper, a drone. We ducked into the scrub, waited. James had the scope he salvaged from the wreck, tracked its flight. It wasn't scanning, it was searching. He looked at me. It's too late to hide. We pushed the first domino. He was right. The signal hit the emergency comms line. I found out later it tripped alerts in 5 different departments. Homeland, BLM, civilian intel, people who'd been looking for something like ghost wind but never had proof. Now they did. 2 nights later, we found shelter in an old ranger outpost. The generator still worked. James hot-wired it in minutes. He was always better with machines than people. I cleaned his wounds. He cleaned mine. Neither of us spoke for a while. Then just before sleep took him, he said, "I wasn't sure if you'd believe the dog." I laughed. First real laugh in years. He was the only one who looked at me like I wasn't crazy. James smiled. He's the best I ever trained. Smarter than half the squad they kept. He reached for my hand, held it like it was something fragile. I thought of you every day. That's what kept me sane. We slept. For once, not out of exhaustion, but out of peace. The next week blurred. We stayed hidden, moved only at night, met with an ex-reporter James trusted from years back. The flash drive had it all. Records, logs, photos, footage. Enough to bury the men behind Project Ghostwind and the shell companies funding them. The press leaked the story in pieces. Then it exploded. Senators demanded hearings. Whistleblowers came forward. Lawsuits. Investigations. The compound we found? Raided, bulldozed. Nothing left but scorched dirt and silence. They denied James's name at first. Claimed he'd died. Claimed it was a case of mistaken identity. Then a photo surfaced. James in a holding room wired to a monitor, the dog at his feet, date stamped, labeled, subject Wang Tyne, tall feather, James. They couldn't erase that. 2 months later, we stood in front of a federal panel. They apologized, publicly, awarded compensation, promised reform. We took none of it. No amount of money could buy back the years. Instead, we bought land, small, quiet, north of the old ridge. We built a new home, smaller than the last but stronger, with our own hands. And this time, we buried nothing. We planted a garden, a tree for every name James remembered from the facility, those who didn't make it, the ones who died in the dark. Every morning, the dog runs the edge of the property like he's guarding something sacred. And he is. James sits on the porch with coffee and scars. I sit beside him. We don't speak much. Don't need to. We're not the people we were. We're something tougher, not broken, reforged. And in the quiet, we remember. The world tried to erase him. But love remembered. And love came with teeth. Some nights I still wake up before the sun and sit out on the porch, wrapped in James's old jacket, coffee gone cold in my hands. The world's quiet now, no sirens, no gunshots, no threats just beyond the tree line. Just the wind, the creak of wood, the soft pad of the dog's steps as he comes to sit beside me. I look out at the trees we planted, 28 of them now, each one a name, a story, a life stolen but not forgotten. I used to think grief was something you lived through, that it faded like a bruise or softened like a storm that finally passes. But the truth is, grief doesn't end. You just make room for other things, for truth, for rage, for healing, for love, if you're lucky. And I was lucky, because somehow a broken dog found his way through fire and fences and miles of lies to bring back the one thing I thought I'd buried for good. My husband, my reason. You can lose everything, rebuild nothing, and still find your way home. That's what James and I learned. That loyalty, real loyalty, doesn't die in the dirt. It digs, it fights, it survives. So if you're out there sitting with your own ghosts, wondering if the story ends in silence, it doesn't have to. Sometimes the thing that saves you comes in a form you never expected. A sign, a bark, a knock on the door. And when it comes, don't look away, because no one's ever really lost. Not if someone's still looking. If this story stirred something in you, if it made you remember someone you thought was gone, or believe in something you'd stopped waiting for, share it. Tell someone. Don't keep quiet. Because maybe someone out there is feeding stray dogs, waiting for a miracle of their own. And maybe, just maybe, that miracle's already on its way.